Welcome to the Love Your City podcast. Tish, this feels so weird. I'm saying hello to a camera.
I know.
I don't know what to do with my hands because I've usually got a microphone in them.
Yes.
But this is a whole new production. Joined as always by Letitia Shelton. How are you, Tish?
Yeah, I can't roll my eyes anymore because people can see.
The little off microphone scuffles that we usually have, everything's exposed now.
Yep. We love each other.
We do. That's true. Tish, this is episode 50.
Yeah.
Can you believe we made it?
Amazing. Where's the champagne?
That's a good question. I can't see any. I see a water bottle over
Producer,
there.
champagne.
Yeah, champagne, yes. Maybe afterwards, celebration. Do you know it's been 628 days since we launched this podcast?
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you reckon of our ratio? 50 episodes in 628 days. I'm not real thrilled with that. I think we could do a greater output than that.
I've always said that.
I know if it was up to you, we would be.
Exactly.
Yeah,
this
maybe,
is another
maybe I'll
point
take
of tension.
that back.
Yeah.
I immediately regretted saying that as soon as I said it out loud. What I thought would be great to do in this episode is to think back over those 628 days, and I know you prepared for this, we're not just doing this on the fly, and think about what has been your favourite ... in the last 628 days. And I'll get a chance as well. But I've got 5 things that I want to ask you about what your favourite was. And I think that would be good to help people in terms of direct them towards resources they can find, all that sort of thing, to do with impacting their city. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm right on board.
I knew you would be because we
all
worked it
your
out
ideas
beforehand.
Are very good,
very
yes.
good. Before we jump in though, hello to Riss and Evan over there, our behind the scenes crew. They're going to jump on the camera later.
They're our live studio audience.
That's right. A round of applause from the live studio. Feels much better. I'm the only person in the room without the surname Shelton at the moment, so I'm feeling very in the minority. Anyway, let's jump in. First one, most obvious. Your favourite episode of our podcast in the last 628 days.
Yeah, look, it's so hard to think because there have been so many good ones, but I'd probably go to a recent one, although it wasn't one we did together. It was my interview with Jason Hubbard.
Yeah, very good.
Is that... Sorry.
That's fine.
Again,
no,
but just a great story. I loved it because it's a story of not just prayer, the unity of prayer across churches, but also, doing things through social justice, really getting behind the marketplace. Again, it was a holistic story, and we've done a lot of stories of great little bits and pieces from cities, but to see a city that's seen 10,000 salvations as well through all of this, I was greatly inspired.
Yeah, brilliant. That was a really good interview because it's a great story, of course. Your interview technique was sensational, by the way. I'll just add that in. And that people can watch that, the video of that episode, and also listen to it on the podcast if they haven't heard already. So jump in and look at that. My favourite episode. I've loved the city stories. I really have enjoyed hearing both the unique elements of city stories, but also the consistent themes across them. But I went to our interview in Washington with James Kelly from Faith Tech. Just so outside the square. We sort of stumbled upon James. He did an impromptu intensive at the conference we're at in Washington together, and we grabbed him afterwards, and just some of the stuff that's happening around the tech industry to impact cities. Just incredible stories. And without repeating those stories, encourage our listeners to tune into that.
Actually, that was my favourite. Well. I forgot about that one.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And we did that one together.
Okay, yes.
Oh, very good. Excellent.
Okay,
Tish, that's great. Okay.
I'm going to do this all the time.
So Jason Hubbard and James Kelly, go back, I don't know what number they are, go back and listen to them all. You can listen to them on double speed, by the way. That's something I've discovered with podcasts. It's a great feature. You sound great in double speed.
Like I'm 4.
What about your favourite episode of another podcast? So name the podcast, obviously, but then more specifically, the episode.
The episode. Oh, I didn't realise it had to be the episode.
Sorry. Okay. No, it's okay.
My other favourite podcast, which has nothing to do with reaching cities or anything really, is called Wrongful Conviction.
Right. Yes.
And I spent hours listening to this, especially because I ride my bike, so I need hours. But it's particularly about African Americans who have been incarcerated or put on death row unjustly. And, it's very pertinent at this time with all we're seeing. But I just find it intriguing how the justice system has made up this big story to frame this person to at least put away anybody. And my justice meter ticks very high, and I get very angry and ride my bike faster because of it.
Yeah.
But it's one that I just really enjoy. And a Christian guy has started a ministry called Equal Justice. In fact, he's done a movie this year, and how they come along and research all the right facts and have gotten a lot of them off death row. So then my justice meter is
That's
fantastic.
I see that really aligning with city. I mean, we want justice in our cities, absolutely, and God is a God of justice, no doubt.
What about for you?
Well, because you didn't have a specific episode, I'm going to go with 2, if that's okay. I don't care if it isn't. I'm going to do it anyway. The first one is a podcast called Theology in the Raw, and it's a guy called Preston Sprinkle. And if you're going to start a podcast, if you've got a name of Preston Sprinkle, it's going to be good no matter what you talk about. But Theology in the Raw, he is very broad in his topics and his themes. But it's almost like someone who used to be a pastor that may needed to have stayed within the bounds of his church denomination or whatever, has just started this podcast where everything is on the table. Talk about anything and everything and really pull some of those threads. And in particular, this episode I love with a guy I'm a huge fan of, Hugh Holter, who lives in a little town called Alton, which is 2 hours. I heard a snigger over there.
Not Hugh Hefner.
No, not Hugh Hefner.
He's died
no,
now.
it's not Hugh Hefner. No, he is. Let's not diverge.
Hugh Holter.
Hugh Holter, who has planted a church in Alton, a little town south of Chicago, and doing some incredible. We talk about the new church for the new world. In fact, that's a Roger Sutton quote from 2018 Movement Day. And I see him really experimenting with what the church can look like in this new day. So I think there's a couple of episodes. This guy Preston Sprinkle has done almost 800 episodes of his podcast.
In how many days?
I think in about 4 or 5 years. So that's a pretty high rate. Maybe that's what I was comparing us to earlier. But go and have a listen to that. The other one that this is almost in the category of must listen, is a podcast that I think a lot of people would have heard of. It's called This Cultural Moment, by a guy out of Portland called John Mark Comer and a guy out of Melbourne called Mark Sayers, both pastors, and pastors in very secular cities. And there's a series of 6 episodes called the Portland Sessions. Go and listen. I won't say any more than that. Okay, Tish, next one. Favourite book. And you're meant to bring it with you, so, you know.
Because I read them all on my iPad,
of course,
so
yes.
You'd be seeing my iPad, which is boring. One of my favourite books is a book called Prophetic Lament, by an Asian American guy called Sung Ra Cha or something.
Probably should have got that pronunciation right before you hit record.
I'll just
That's
edit
right.
that, thanks. Anyway, amazing book on the power of lament, and I think when it comes to looking at our cities, our culture doesn't do this well at all. We don't even necessarily always dig into the pain and find out what's going on, but sitting in the pain, lamenting it before we want to come up with a strategy or fix the problem. And so I have actually read that twice, and I never read books twice. Okay. And then I go back to it many times.
Very good. I've got that on my shelf. I haven't read it yet, though. And I think you actually gave it to me, so I need to go and read that one. Whenever someone gives me a book, I know straight away there's about 20 in front of it before I'll get to it. I brought mine in. It's a book called, I'll put it up to the camera there, Prophetic Lament by Alan Kreider. I hope I got that pronunciation.
Prophetic Lament.
And the subtitle is, the patient ferment of the early church, the improbable rise of Christianity in the Roman Empire. What I love about it is it's historical, so it's a historical analysis of the early church and what was really behind the rapid growth and the phenomenal growth of the early church. And I think I've got this right. The thesis of the book is that it didn't grow phenomenally because of great evangelistic fervour or missional fervour. In fact, there was a distinct lack of strategy in trying to reach their cities and all that sort of thing. What they did was they took seriously following Jesus. And there was a high degree of commitment, a high degree of accountability, all that sort of thing. And through a church that was so focused and so committed to Jesus and living his way in the Roman world, that's what saw the phenomenal growth of the early church. And the impact on cities was incredible.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a tougher read. It made me realise how much I like a particular level of reading, which is probably around C or D. This is more A or B. So I struggled through it, but it was worth it.
And I feel like I've read it because my father has read it and I've heard many, many stories and quotes.
And I think Evan's read it as well, and he highly recommends.
Okay.
What's the title again?
The title is The Patient Ferment of the Early Church.
Evan hasn't talked about it.
No, we'll get Evan on at some stage and we'll do a book review. That'd be good. Okay, next question.
Yeah.
Next favourite. Your favourite event.
Yes.
And there's been many.
This is Movement Day event or a football game?
I had in brackets here, apart from Movement Day events, because that's
great.
kind of a given. They've been great. I hope you didn't have that as your favourite. I think I know what it would be, but I'll let you go and then I'll tell you if I was right or not.
Look, Cirque du Soleil.
No, I'd never thought
Okay.
Cirque du Soleil. Did you really go, or did you
I've been
throw
3
me off the
times.
scent?
No,
Oh,
no.
wow, okay.
Oh, amazing.
All right. Okay.
But then, look, another favourite event is the Global Summit to End Sexual Exploitation. Is
That's
that what
the
you're
one I was
thinking?
gonna
Yeah.
guess.
And
Yep.
I'm missing it this year, which is killing me.
Yeah.
But highly inspiring as people from all over the world come together
Yeah.
to talk about how they're, counteracting the sexualised culture around the world.
Yeah.
Top people doing great stuff.
So I'm going to probe a bit more, just because I know we've got a bit of time. What's the most inspiring, challenging, rebuking, whatever word you want to put in front of it, talk that you've heard at the summits you've been to? Pick one.
Listening to a father tell the story of his daughter being kidnapped from their home by a porn-addicted man who then took her up to the mountains for 5 years and raped her. Stories like that, and obviously the whole session was, how porn fuels sexual violence.
Yeah.
Just harrowing, but they found her, so there was a good news story. Last year we heard a mum whose son was captured by a man and murdered.
Wow.
The stories are powerful, and I think that's what you need. It's that lament and sitting in that pain that keeps me going constantly.
Yep.
So,
I was going to say that links back to why we need to lament. I mean, you can't hear a story like that. I think the tendency is to just brush it under the carpet and think about something else, but absolutely giving space to lament, because God laments that, right?
Yeah,
that's obvious,
absolutely.
Well, my favourite event, non-Movement Day Australia, or Movement Day anywhere, was the LYCC International Forum, which I happened to be at the same time you were at the Global Summit, I think.
Yeah.
As we've talked about in other podcasts, love LICC. LICC, Tish. LICC, not LCCI or
Whatever it is.
the London Institute for Contemporary Christianity. It's a mouthful. But John Stott started this organisation back in the 80s, I think. And their cause is to see a very, very strong overlap with Movement Day, to see the whole church take the whole gospel into the whole city. And so they started with a lament over the state of the church, the decline of the church in the UK, and started asking the question, how do we reach the UK? And it was through mobilising the people of God. Mark Green, the executive director, spoke at the Lausanne Conference on World Evangelisation, which you have to be pretty special to get an invitation to even go, I think, let alone speak. And his cutting quote was 98% of the church are not sufficiently equipped to do mission and ministry where they spend 95% of their time.
Yeah.
You might want to play that back. I'm not going to try and say it again, but yeah. Did you get that? All right, yeah.
And so the 2% are the ones who go to Bible college,
exactly.
is that it?
The 2% of the pastors and the missionaries, 98% of Christians are not sufficiently envisioned, equipped, mobilised to do mission where they spend 95% of their time, because they only spend 5% of time in the church. So that's what the conference is all about. And there were people from South Africa, people from other parts of Europe, America, and from Southeast Queensland, who went and just through storytelling and theology and all that sort of thing, just came away more inspired to be on about that. So that was brilliant, and I got some good friends there. I was able to spend some time with Roger and Leslie Sutton as well, and Stephen Sutton up in Teesside, which I'm going to come back to. Because my next question is, what has been your favourite city story? And it can't be Jason Hubbard again, because you used him for your podcast episode.
Oh, gosh.
But what's been your favourite city story that you've heard in the last 628 days?
Yeah, I went back to Adam Durso from New York.
Yes.
Again, because people think, oh, yep, Toowoomba has a good city story, or Gympie or something, but how do you reach somewhere like New York?
Yeah.
And to me, they are a city who has, through prayer, through unity, seen a huge change in their murder rate, in church planting. So it just gave me huge hope that there is hope for the huge mega cities of the world, because you just look at them. I've just come off of a Zoom with someone from a big city saying, where do we start? Adam, he's a great personality.
Absolutely. And people can go back in our episodes as well and find an interview with Adam Durso that we did that was just, man.
Yep.
Yeah. My favourite city story, I've got two again, sorry. I'll do them quickly though. Teesside, Stephen Sutton, I was able to spend time there. And do you know Teesside, birthplace of Captain Cook? And also, all of the steel in the Sydney Harbour Bridge came from Teesside.
Yes.
You probably know that because I've told you 73 times.
We've mentioned it.
Have we?
45 times. But that's okay.
I have a habit of doing that, but repetition is a way of teaching. So, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to teach you, Tish.
You've done well.
Good. Anyway, so being in Teesside and seeing Stephen Sutton and the team he's brought together, just phenomenal. But I also want to give mention to Perth. I am constantly inspired by what's happening in Perth. And just collectively across, they're doing some things really well. Praying together, Wendy Yap's a big player in that. But also the intergenerational mix. Like I hear our friends Amit and Steve talking so lovingly of the elder generations there. And whenever you're at a conference with the Perth guys, they're always there together. There's the young and old together. And they are doing some great stuff over there. So I wanted to give them a shout out as well. So we mentioned at least one Australian city.
Yes.
Very good, Tish. Well, I am out of favourites. Do you have any more that you want to throw in there, like your favourite podcast co-host? Who would that be?
Yeah, I've done a lot of podcasts with many different people.
Well, that's why I wanted to know who your favourite was. Regular co-host,
Look, many.
Okay.
Yes,
my name's Sam.
Your favourite restaurant?
I've discovered a Korean restaurant here in town the other day. I can't remember the name of it, but it was very good.
Okay, yep. Okay.
My daughter loves Korean things at the moment. She's into K-pop. That has been a big education.
Yes, great.
Yes.
Good.
Anyway.
Your favourite clothing store? Where do you buy your checkered shirts from?
I usually buy online, and it's really frustrating at the moment because all of the freight has been slowed down by the global pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're wearing the same shirt every day?
Pretty much. Yep. Can't you smell it? Yeah. Yep. I haven't got any more. We're just going to keep on waffling on here.
Take us out.
Excellent. I thought it'd be great to get our behind-the-scenes guys on camera. They don't want to, but they will anyway. So Riss and Evan, come on over. They're responsible for the production of this. This podcast is going next level. We're on video, of course. I'm looking at that camera and I can say hi to that camera too, and it's a whole new experience. But these are the guys. Just come and have a seat or whatever. You can just sit and you guys are all related. You can buddy up on the couch there. That's fantastic. Evan, you're probably not going to be on microphone at the moment, but so you can just tell me and then I'll repeat it. But there's some things that people need to be looking out for in the next month or so. G'day, Riz.
Hey.
If people want to find out, like today, more about Movement Day, the Facebook page is the place to go, right? But from then on, in the next couple of weeks or so, there's going to be a brand new website. Got that right? And that will be at movement.org.au, right? And if people go there now, they'll see some stuff, but that website's under construction in the background that's going to replace the current site that people will see. And we're also, and God help us, going to a YouTube channel on which this podcast will be shown. So yes, God, I didn't mean that as a blaspheming thing. I meant a genuine prayer, God help us. And so that's coming too. Is that the three things? Great.
Great.
Excellent. All right. Well, Tish, 50
Yeah.
episodes in. Do you reckon we'll get to 51?
I hope we get, there.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Very good.
Get to 100
Yeah, that
bit
was
sooner.
unconvincing. A bit 100 a bit sooner. Well, now we've got a studio.
I know.
Who wants to leave here? Next episode, we're going to have a conversation with Evan about music in movement. I think like my favourite podcast, James Kelly and Faith Tech, the role of these other things play, particularly in those creative spheres, are so important to city gospel movements. It's going to be great to talk with you, Evan, about that. And we're going to try and rig it up so that you can perform a song that you've written, which will be fantastic because Tish and I never sing on the podcast.
But we can.
We could.
Yeah,
We could
every
sing on the
Shelton
podcast.
can sing, so
Okay.
me and Riss are going to join in.
I'm happy for Riss to join in. No, you're not bad. I've heard you singing.
Thanks.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you so much, Tish. As always, it's been good. We haven't fought, and there's been no eye rolling.
No, it's been
good.
an awesome episode.
Excellent. Thank you, and goodbye.